friends, this is Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and today, as many of you have seen, there's been a lot of videos created about Grievous, about where he's useful, about where he should be used. Obviously, the initial thought was that Grievous was going to come in and destroy the Revan meta. Now, based on the amount of credits and gear and crystals and Zetas that you need to have a fully functioning Separatist Grievous-led team, it makes me think that that's not an unreasonable reaction, right? It's not unreasonable to think that Grievous was going to do all that, especially since we saw in the release footage provided by Capital Games, he did awesome. Now, as always, test footage should be looked at or should be used or seen with kind of a big grain of salt, because as any company is going to roll out a new product, they're going to roll out the best and show you all the optimal things, right? They're not going to say, also, here's how to beat Grievous, here's how to destroy him. Now, if you've been able to play a Grievous, you know how to beat him. You know that he's not a great defensive team lead, especially against as an AI, he's just not great, which is kind of ironic because Grievous was, you know, part droid. You'd think he would be able to handle more self-driven interaction and not need a human component, but maybe that's why he was part droid and not full droid. I don't rightly know. But the overall reaction from the community was one of underwhelmment. They were underwhelmed. Now, here's the thing, guys. I've said this for years. I think there's a lot of different places for different characters, and I'm going to get to that here in a second. But what we've seen from Cubs Fan Han, what we've seen from a number of different players, is Grievous can climb. He just can't stay on top, right? Grievous is a great attacker. The droid Separatist team is wonderful. You do have to gear them, you do have to mod them completely different than any other attacker, any other attacking team that we've ever seen so far. It's just not something that we are down with. It's not something we're used to, which is kind of funny because I know that there's been an outcry that we need speed mods. It always comes down to speed mods. A high secondary speed, a high speed chance. I mean, like, I go through my mod selection, or my mods, and if I have mods that have less than 8 speed, I typically toss them because I just don't have a need for them. I just don't have room in my inventory for mods with that low of speed. Once they get to the maxed out level, if they're still at 15 or below 8, then I just toss them, or I sell them and I try to start over. But with this Grievous kit, with this Grievous rework, what they've done is essentially kind of liberated themselves from having to rely on speed mods. Now, that obviously is a shock because that's not how they introduced this kit. They did come out with a post and say, hey, this is how his kit, how he needs to be modded. We may not have been as forthright or as forthcoming with that information as we should have been, but that's neither here nor there at this point, right? And it really isn't. At this point, they gave us the information. Grievous and a Grievous team needs to be modded very differently than any other team that we've seen before. Now, I kind of like that because, again, it does free us up for using our speed mods on other characters. We don't have to now negotiate between who gets what mod. Now we can just be a little more open with it. Now, I don't know if you guys are like me, but I've been getting a ton of health mods anyways. Like, they've been pouring in for the last like month and a half, and so I can now actually use them, and so I'm kind of excited about that. I am not going to be Zeta-ing Grievous anytime soon, but he is a solid character that I'm looking forward to playing around with. As I've said in the past, there are different modes, and Arena is not necessarily where you want to use General Grievous or a General Grievous-led droid team. I think General Grievous is going to be used for 2 specific areas, quite possibly a third. The first one is, I think General Grievous is going to be a territory war wall breaker. One of the things that has been so frustrating in this game is that when you are in the territory wars, when you are fighting against an opponent and a team of opponents, and they have this whole front row of Revens, it is infuriating. It is absolutely insane because, yeah, Revan can be beat, but you have to use your best characters. If you use your best characters there, you know, you're going to find other areas where you're going to need them, and it's just going to be a hassle. Now, we have a team that can do some serious damage to a Revan-led team. Now, not to mention that this team can also do damage against Sith, against Rebels, CLS. This is a great team against most other meta teams. It does struggle a little bit against Revan. There's a specific way you need to approach it, obviously, with most things. But I think that that's what this is going to be. This is going to be a blockade buster, right? This is going to be just taking that team, a Separatist team, and just jamming them through that wall till they break on through to the other side, right? It just makes sense. And seeing as how you won't have to use speed mods, you won't have to switch out your best mods, that is incredibly beneficial to a territory war area. Now, same thing with Grand Arena. I think this is going to be a great offensive team in Grand Arena. Now, obviously, you can only use it once. Obviously, you do need to have this team really solid. It doesn't need to be phenomenal. I was able to play with a B1 7-star, and he was 7-star. He was completely geared out. He was solid, right? But my Droideka was 4-star. Gear like 11, I think. Decent mods, not great mods. I didn't fully understand at the time. I think I had all speed mods on him. But in Arena, he was able to hold his own. All those characters were solid, but it was a 4-star Droideka. He was able to hold his own against a number of other major teams, and that actually was able to dominate a number of other major teams. Now again, the rest of the crew was completely geared, was completely zated, completely modded, and that's going to make a huge difference. But if you don't have Droideka right off the bat, if you don't have a solid team, the teams that I was going up against were still great. We're still zated, we're fully maxed, we're fully geared 12, and I was doing well. That makes me think that even a lower end droid Separatist team with a lower end Droideka is still going to do okay. It may not be a wall breaker, it may not be an offense breaker, it may not be the thing that's going to put you over the top, but it's a solid team that I think will allow you to do better later on. Now, the next thing, the last thing, and this is something that I think it's not in the game currently, but I do think that it's being pointed to, is we are going to see a capital ship for the Separatists. It does make sense to give Grievous a capital ship, unless we are introduced to a new Separatist fleet commander. That makes sense. Now, there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of people out there talking about different things. I would like to see a Grievous capital ship. Now, one last thing before I completely move off and sign out is I posted this little questionnaire in my Discord, and I asked the people of my server, I'm like, hey, are you excited about this? Do you like the Grievous rework? And so I said thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no, and if you're indifferent, give me an alien face. 21 people said they were indifferent. I think that's kind of funny. Now, granted, if more people were part of my Discord server, if more people took the survey, then we might see the flux different. People are very disappointed. So most people were indifferent. The people that had a feeling about it were obviously disappointed than looked at this favorably. But how do you see this rework? What do you think? Have you been using him in Arena? And if so, have your stats, have your numbers differed from everyone else's where you've been able to climb and stay? Or are you seeing what a lot of us are seeing is he can climb, but you have to fight 4 battles with Grievous, and then in that 5th battle you just have to swap out for a Revan. That's what I've seen people do. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Leave a comment in the section below. Like, subscribe, share. Let me know your thoughts. This has been Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and as always, my friends, smile, stay nerdy.